I don't think there's ever been a more elitist tea time. We have 3 elitists on this tea time. We have Yui, we have Snowcrow's Nico, we have Roca, all extremely toxic players. And Inks, actually, arguably Inks is the most toxic player here. Okay, now, Inks
he is very toxic.
Inks really is incredibly toxic. Like Inks, what he typically does is roast Guild Wars 2 on a daily basis and hates casuals. You don't think we should be allowed to get anything for winning, do you, Inks? Is basically what I'm trying to say.
No, I don't. Nope.
Yeah.
Losers get nothing except tears,
Yeah.
except their tears to comfort them.
Well, there you go. Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah? You think that's all you're allowed to get? Nothing?
That's it.
Just tears?
Nothing. You deserve nothing. You lost. You're the loser. First loser, you get 0.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's kind of fair. But,
I mean, it doesn't really line up with anything in Guild Wars 2, but, hey. It's a good thing I'm not in charge, I guess.
Yeah. I would love you to be in charge, Inks. Okay? That to me will be extremely funny. But we're not here to talk about the leadership of Guild Wars 2. We're actually here to talk about the actual game itself, Guild Wars 2. And we have had a monumental thing, a long-awaited thing, which is, of course, the balance patch. And then after the balance patch, you have the benchmark post from, the current guild in the public spotlight, which is of course Snowcrows. And we've got some Snowcrows here today to talk about that. So I think that's where I kind of want to start this off. In your guys' opinion, like has the meta gone in a positive direction, or has nothing changed whatsoever? That will be kind of where I want to go. Who wants to go on that?
Well, I don't think it really changed much. Like, we were still on the top, Necro still at the bottom. I mean, there's a bit more closer to each other in the middle, but overall, I think balance-wise, the game kind of stays in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we were really all like a little bit more afraid of what could happen with these alacrity changes, right? But they didn't turn out to be that terrible, to be honest. Like, Weaver is still pretty much the same, right? It didn't change very much. So really just not that crazy a change.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the general feeling, is that there wasn't really... And the way certain things play is a little bit different, but the actual overall balance itself didn't really change. As such,
Yeah,
like,
and also just individual rotations. I think I was so scared that Weaver would be terrible, like completely different cooldowns wouldn't line up and shit, but it's fine. It's actually pretty cool.
I mean, you think like, oh my god, crazy mesmer changes, but overall, you still give quickness, you still give alacrity, and you still do CC. So everything changed for how you play it, but you're still doing the same stuff in the end.
Yeah, I think that was to a certain extent the intention, though, especially with regards to Mesmer. I don't think they wanted to make Mesmer completely different. That would have been weird. I mean, the way it's played is changed in a fairly significant way, but I don't think they wanted to completely redesign the class and make it fulfill a different role, right? I mean, I don't know. I think
what they're doing pretty good is like they're trying to remove crazy things that people have been complaining to be OP, without actually changing everything too much, right? So they removed distortion, right? And it didn't really change all that much. They removed Grace of the Lands, and it didn't really change all that much, except that Druid is now a shit class. Sorry, ArenaNet. But, now they nerfed Alacrity, right? And again, everybody was very scared that this would change everything so much, but it's not.
Yeah. And the fact that that's the case is kind of a testament to how broken these things are, right? Like the fact that you can keep nerfing stuff like Druid and Alacrity and Mesmer, it just shows you how broken it really was, right? I mean, come on.
They did other things that, like, you remove one big buff from Druid, but instead you make him like a superior might stacking class. I mean,
yeah,
give him something OP, something else that's OP for removing what's OP already. So
yeah, I think what I'm sad about in this balance patch is that while the class at the top didn't really change, Renegade got way worse, Guardian got way worse, and Thief got slightly buffed, but Thief is by far not viable. So, I mean, in the end,
not according to pity marks.
Ah, this is good actually. Dude, SC is fully debunked, by the way. Like SC out DPS by Kitty Marks on Deadeye, dude. Now that is a spicy meme right there, my friends.
Yeah, just no good
Not for
players
very
in this
long,
guild,
though.
I tell you, like no thief players at all.
Yeah, but the diversity, which was really good before, is I think a bit more gone now because classes are just further away from each other. Like the top is just so.
Yeah. I suppose
It's pretty sad. Like I enjoyed Revenant, I enjoyed Renegade, and now it's like it even fell out of the metacoms, I think, where it was actually like best in slot, I think. If I'm not saying something wrong right now.
Yeah. So do you think ArenaNet should be how are they going to go about this then? Like they need to do more frequent balance and like push to get all these classes closer together. Is that what we need?
Come on, Teapot. I mean that's been the answer since 2012.
Well,
I think they need to do more frequent small balance patches that do nothing but adjust damage numbers for different classes.
Nothing.
No, but like what
That's
I'm saying
about
is they do a lot of balance patches, but they always try to tackle this crazy thing. They remove Grace of the Land, they remove
mechanical
Distorce,
changes,
remove Alacrity, which just changes everything passively. Instead, they should just do like do that occasionally, but not like every 2 months because it's shitload of work for everybody to adapt to. And I think it's getting a little bit to the point where it's starting to get a little bit annoying that you have to like change all your builds up every couple of months. But just like slightly adjust some numbers, like this 2 months Dragon Hunter is slightly better than LE. This 2 months Revenant is a little bit better, but not these fundamental buff changes,
Yeah. I think
yeah, but I mean those only happen every 6 or 7 months, right? Because that's when we kind of get large balance patches.
I mean, for me, it always made sense that at least top it has a harder rotation. It is way more squishy. It doesn't offer any defensive buff. Like it has to be the highest damage class.
Yeah. Yes and no, I'd say personally. I do think that it should be rewarding to play a good Ellie, but not necessarily for You know what? Let me take that back. I think if you play it perfectly, if you have a good group, I would like Ellie to be top, but then again, I wouldn't like only staff Ellie to be top. For example, I'd like a small hitbox rotation again for Ellie. That'd be something that I would really like on Elementalist. Not staff being best on everything, but maybe Sword actually taking the lead, at least on small hitboxes.
Yeah, I agree. But that is like going into like each class. I think, for example, on Thief, Dagger should also be on Daredevil. Like Dagger should always be the most rewarding build to play, but it is not the case. So.
Yeah, and this is where it actually gets really tricky, especially from ArenaNet's perspective, when you're trying to balance the complexity of the class with how effective the class actually is. That is a tricky thing to balance. Like it's where like the mechanics interacts with the balance, right? Is where you get this tricky stuff, right?
Taking the individual bosses into account as well. Like this boss might be better for Dragon Hunters because they have a strong healing skill or they have blocks or something, Shit like this, it's very hard to implement into your balancing. I'm pretty sure about that.
And this is kind of the oh, sorry, go ahead, Inks. You go ahead.
So my question is, I mean, the benchmarks are great and all, but what's the reality inside a raid most of the time for Staff Weaver?
In good groups, they're top DPS.
I know, but by how much? Are they really doing 37K?
Of course not, but I mean, depending on the boss, sadly, what I said with the Renegade part is that on more bosses now, Weaver is better. Like, on bosses where you could play Renegade before, it's not viable. Like, not meta anymore. The only class which performs way better than on the benchmarks in a real raid is Necro, because you can epi bounce and you can't do that on the Golem.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, they're not going to do the same value. If that's the direction we're going in Ings, they're obviously not going to do the same damage on a real boss as they do on the Golem. Because this has also been a community complaint, I think, that obviously Golem rotations can't, they can only simulate a certain bit of what's going to be reality, right? You can't actually simulate Gorzavel with all its attacks, or like, I don't know, take a boss that actually has attacks, maybe. Anything, right? You can only, you have to find a certain common ground between putting all the classes into perspective to each other and showing how each class competes with the other classes, right? And you also have to kind of, and that's especially on Ellie, that's the case. You have to kind of find a way to make it not RNG heavy, because one other thing that people use these benchmarks for is they will go and compare their own numbers, right? So people will go to the golem and they will try to do a rotation and look at what number they get to see how they perform, right? In comparison to like the people who made the benchmarks. So on Ellie, you have this problem that that's a class that has a lot of attacks that have very high RNG factors. So you can be lucky and get really high DPS with a bad rotation, or you could be like really unlucky and with a perfect rotation get like lower DPS. So some of these factors that play into the golem rotations are actually meant to cancel that out, which then in turn, like makes the damage look a bit higher. Because, for example, you use the use hitbox now on the golem. So your DPS is overall higher, but it's meant so that everybody can compare to it, right? And that you reduce the RNG factors in the rotation.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I wish people interpreted the benchmarks in a certain way, that it was, instead of saying, yes, this is how you do the damage, it's like, no, this is like the order you use the skills in, right? Or this is the priority that you use with the skills. But it always ends up like, oh, wait, what? Weaver does 40k DPS? Oh my god! All these classes suck!
You can see in the kind of reaction that a person gives to these posts is like, how involved are they actually thing? They don't actually know about Weaver. If this is their like comment on a certain tweet, right? Then you know that they haven't really, like, they didn't really know about Weaver. They didn't really read up on it. They are just looking at this one number and they're like finding all the information they don't like about it and they comment on it.
Yeah, pretty much. And that I mean, I don't know. This is kind of going into the kind of the community. We could complain about the community for a long time.
No, I don't want to complain about the community. Yeah. I'm just saying a lot of people look at these things and they try to find the negatives.
No, I think it's a very valid topic, though. I think it's a very valid topic, though, to actually talk about like how the community interprets these resources that are put across by members of the community, right? It's a tricky thing.
Now we try to tackle this like misinformation thing that makes people believe the wrong stuff, right? So we actually write down a fair amount of text in these posts, right?
Yeah.
To explain this, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, this was never QT's fault. This isn't SC's fault now, right? Like, it's just that it doesn't matter what you tell people. They're just gonna skip all that and just look at the bottom line and say, look at my Necromancer. It does less than 30k DPS. Look at Weaver. It does 46k DPS. Arena, what is this balance? Come on, what's wrong with you people? And that's kind of always how it's going to be. And it's a really tricky thing. I don't really see the solution to that, right?
Yeah, that's why we had those comps though on our website, so people can see that it's not only Weaver. Wasn't only Weaver. Right now it kind of changed, because then, as I said, like some classes just fell out with the electricity change, etc.
Yeah, and it really wasn't the case. Like, before the patch, it wasn't the case. Weaver wasn't like best in slot on every single boss, even though for some reason people seem to think it was. It really is a bizarre thing, right? And obviously on certain bosses, like, you will see a copious amount of Weavers. Maybe it's because Weaver is really good on Doom. People go, yes, Weaver. It's best on the hardest boss, so we better start stacking Weavers everywhere.
Yeah, I kind of dislike that it now seems to be best on Veil Guardian again a bit, or like at least DPS wise. Like, I think Dragon Hunter had a great spot there. It was cool for Dragon Hunters.
Yeah, and this is kind of the way stuff needs to be balanced, right? I think I've said this on TeaTime. Like,
it's kind of this first sign again that, like, on a boss where a mechanic should favor a different class, you would still prefer Weaver at this point, because the DPS difference is so big.
A small hitbox is a high burst, and it has a split phase. That should not make Weaver optimal. That's what I agree.
Yeah.
So,
like, unblockable aura ticks and shit is all stuff that actually is really bad for Weaver.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a number of classes that need to come up a couple thousand DPS? Because looking at the charts, and I realize this is just, testing in a perfect scenario and not necessarily per raid boss experience. It seems like a couple of them are stuck in the 33k range, which isn't terrible, but it's a far cry from 37, 36, and 35, which are sort of the top numbers.
I remember the days right at the end of Heart of Thorns where everything was around 35k, and I actually really liked that balance where you had a big variety of classes. They were all roughly the same DPS, and at that point, the different boss mechanics really decided what's best, rather than just Weaver being top DPS.
Which is the dream, right? The dream is you have mechanics dictate what specific class utility you want to take. And I think a big problem with Weaver is not only that it does a lot of damage, it's the way it does the damage, right? Even though I mean at the end of the day, right, like it doesn't do a ridiculous amount more damage than the other classes, right? But it just bursts incredibly hard, which makes it very favorable on pretty much every boss in the game because of how quickly things die, right? Things die pretty damn quickly in Guild Wars 2. So stuff like Weaver or Elementals in general, because of stuff like Meteor Shower and Icebone Lightning Hammers, it's always going to be this class that has this very front-loaded damage, like very up and downy damage. But the thing is, you never get to see the down because the boss is already phased by then, right? Because of how much DPS it can do in such a short space of time, right?
And there are other classes that used to be I mean, again, Dragon Hunter used to be slightly better at that than Weaver, like the short-term spike burst, right? Even if you look at something, this is a little bit trolly, right? But if you look at Power Soul Beast, for example, like different classes have different burst spikes depending on how much time they have for it. So like a Soul Beast will out DPS a Weaver if the fight stops after 5 seconds, for example, right? But if it takes longer, then it reduces the DPS of the Soul Beast very dramatically. Don't play it, guys. Don't do it. I tried.
5-second burst. The 5-second burst.
Which actually would lead us into a different topic, a place where this could be viable that isn't played very much in the game. But I'll leave that for later.
Yeah, but like class balance is even worse in Fractal though than in raids. Like Weaver, it's not even close. Nothing reaches Weaver because of Tempest defense.
I've been doing 100 CM with Syndrana lately, and he played Dragon Hunter, and it just showed. So, like, he plays a decent Dragon Hunter, but the DPS meter tells me that Weaver is better than Dragon Hunter by far. By ridiculously far.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like 30k DPS versus 70k DPS on like the first phase of a boss,
Yeah, it gets very funky though in Fractals because you have all the modifiers, right? You can just stack up modifier after modifier after modifier, and again that's really really good for Ellie, and you just end up just wrecking stuff on that with the break bar and Tempest defense, right? It's just disgusting.
Which yes, by itself, right? So why would possibly anybody in the Fractal team think it would be a good idea to add another stacking modifier to like raid Fractal rewards? That's a different topic.
Because no one's ever gonna get that, dude. Like, come on. It's gonna take ages, man. But, 10 people in the game.
Still, I mean, like, come on, 7% DPS on top of an Ellie who gets another like 1,000% of DPS from other sources. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's only 40 days left till my master can do more damage too.
Yeah, it will take a little while. Get there in the end, though. Yeah, Fractal God soon, guys. Yeah, it'll be very exciting.
And also really weird for me was, like, on Inji, where they introduced the trait which gives you 5% damage against bleeding foes.
Yep.
Like, the major trait. Like, in the same slot, you have Pinpoint and the trait which gives
with the Ferocity.
All in one slot. Like, this is so weird.
Yeah,
they're all pretty super good traits, and they're not even like they're a major trait.
Yeah, the engine trait. I was kind of surprised they added that because I don't know where they were trying to go with that. I think they were kind of hoping it wouldn't be as good as the Ferocity trait, but I guess it turns out it's actually better, right?
I mean, it is better, but it's like not far, and it gives you expertise on top of that. It's like a hybrid trait.
Yeah, it's an odd one. Because it looks like they were kind of trying to bring back Condi Engie a bit, I guess. But I mean, then they remove confusion. So I don't know.
Yeah, but like bad, if you take this, you don't get Pinpoint for Condi.
Yeah, exactly. So you lose your condition damage. I don't know. It's a very odd trait. It's I don't know what they were really kind of going for there.
Or it's just really wrongly placed as well. Like they could have removed another trait, but
and shuffled
putting it in a trade option where there's a good power and a good Condi trait just doesn't. Much sense.
But every trait has its use. You can use Pinpoint for group play, No Scope for Fury, and Thermal Vision for DPS.
But what if you? Yeah, I mean, this is true. That is true.
I
But
do that often. Also in Druids, range and skirmishing have the same. You have a condition trait, a power trait, and a healing trait. Or damage trait
Yeah.
for Soul Beast.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so. That is kind of the direction that it's supposed to be, right? Like the traits are supposed to be
It's more
different.
interesting that way.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't make you happy when you have to choose between them in a raid.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a tough decision.
All three.
Yeah.
I get it, but like, I just
But then you have a line like Soulbeast that has two good like traits, and then the same trait line. So basically, like you have 7 useless traits, and you have 2 that you're like you don't want to decide between. That's
Yeah, but they cannot move the traits because others are useless.
yeah, that's,
Hey
No, but
guys, decided to move these traits because others are trash.
no, but I just don't understand, Nico, is that there was like a good power option already, like a good power trait option, and they
Yeah, now there's even a better one, which is retarded.
Yeah,
Yes, but
yeah,
they
that's
all
what
have its use.
Yeah, they all have their use, dude. That's true.
So is Condi Soul Beast really even worth taking right now in raids?
It's fine. It's okay.
It's fine.
It's all right, yeah, but it's not optimal. I think not even on 7.
So no, basically you can take
No,
it if you
yeah,
feel
no,
like
No, it's still very good. Don't get me wrong, and this is what everybody needs.
Yeah,
Pretty much all of the classes that are on that list are somewhat viable to the point where you can clear raids with them, right?
Sure, yeah, you can clear raids. You can clear raids with almost anything.
But I could you could still low mana raid with that's like they're good enough by far. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are a little bit memey, right? But most of them are really.
And this is the important discussion actually, right? Inks, debate me, okay? Debate me. I'm gonna debate Inks live on stream, okay? Because I know Inks has thinks about this and kind of goes, oh, you know, I want to play the best class, but Inks, that shit doesn't matter even a tiny bit, okay? It doesn't matter what class. It pretty much doesn't matter what class you play in raids. I'm not gonna lie. It like for the intents and purposes of 99% of the player base, it doesn't really matter what class you play at all. In fact, we do some really troll shit on stream. Like I don't know, we did Gorseval nearly no updraft with just auto attacking, right? I don't know. You can do pretty much every boss in the game with just 10 necros. I don't know. It doesn't matter what you play. So I mean, so why does it matter if your Soul Beast doesn't do quite as much damage? I mean, yeah, you would like it to do more, but honestly, it's just fine, really. It's just fine.
Sure, it's if you like playing that class and you're really attached to it, then it's fine. You can still clear the raids, and that's fantastic. But it depends how quickly you want to clear the raids every week and how much time you want to spend on it. How much time did you spend doing like an all necro clear compared to a regular clear you do?
Under the assumption that we one-shot everything, it really wouldn't have made that much difference, honestly. I don't think. It would have made, I don't know, yeah, like the kills would be considerably slower, but you're talking minutes here. Like you're not losing hours or anything. Like I don't know, you lose minutes.
That's assuming that you. I mean, you're.
I mean, if it causes a wipe,
you're assuming that like the majority of the raid community is the group you normally play with, and that's not really true.
Honestly, in my opinion, if you wipe because you had a Condi Soul Beast, then you've got bigger problems in the class.
No,
right?
Obviously not. I mean, if you have a Condi Soul Beast, then his damage is probably going to be fine on not all bosses, but most of them.
What Inks has a point on is that like a good group can swap to 10 necros and kill everything one shot, right? But a beginner group that starts with 5 dead eyes with double pistol or something, all staying max range but really scattered, so they really don't get any of the buffs, then you're gonna have a bad time usually. And I've seen that in training raids. I've been on training raids where like you'd have a bunch of rangers who actually are longbow and stay max range, and they contribute nothing at all, and people fail the enrage timer and wonder why, so
what it comes down to really is it's just a different mindset of play style. You can play whatever you want. If you like Condi Soul Beast, play Condi Soul Beast to your heart's content. I would rather play a class that performs better overall.
If you the thing is that, and this is kind of in in a pug situation, in a casual pug situation, like Weaver isn't even that good. I mean, yeah. If you watch someone like Mela play, like he'll very often be top DPS, even when he pugs raids. Like he'll be, almost certainly be top DPS on his Weaver, but it's not by as much as you'd think sometimes, right? And that's because like at the end of the day, Weaver likes this kind of happy situation where it can just do its own thing and start going crazy, right? The golem is a lie, guys. Like it's closer than you might think because of the way the mechanics interact with the classes, right? Like unless you're a really good Weaver, you're not really going to be that much more useful to the team than another class, right? Like it really doesn't matter. And honestly, Inks, if you like fucking min-max that rotation, rank 1 soul beast, like you could be top DPS most pugs. When I join pugs on Necro, I don't know. I mean, I'm a decent Necro, right? And I'm pretty much a lot of the time I will end up as kind of top DPS, like top 1 or 2, 3 DPS, right? Just even on bosses that aren't really that favorable for Necro, just because I play the class well and I do the mechanics and stuff. Like, at the end of the day, like it's not a class issue. And as Taram said in chat here, right? If all those Deadeyes are wiping because they're playing the game wrong, it's not because of Deadeye, it's because they're playing the game wrong. I mean, if you play pretty much any comp and you randomly run around in circles and just don't give anyone ever any boons, right? Then yeah, like you're not gonna do anything. You're not gonna.
But I mean, my point was when they struggle on mechanics already, then just playing a good class will just give you an advantage on learning these mechanics as well, right? Rather than like if you're good DPS and you misplay mechanics, it's still better than being low DPS. And
yes, that's true.
In a certain way, I'm just saying like. As in, like, people should like not be too serious about these builds, but people should invest time in what build they're playing, right? And they should like at least give these a try in a way, like because a lot of people complain that like they're being forced into these builds when really they just want to play their like nonsensical build.
You're not being forced into a build. Jesus Christ!
Exactly, like nobody forced anybody to do it. Like,
just get your group and play whatever you want. Get your static group and you can play whatever. I mean, you've been clearing raids for such a long time with lower numbers that it doesn't really. The bosses are typically very soft. You don't need to be doing top DPS most of the time in order to kill them. Like what is the DPS required to phase Gorseval? Like 7K or something. Like, come on.
To do it, no updraft, I think, right?
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Like the bosses are fairly soft. If you're doing the mechanics properly, like you guys have been saying, mostly properly, you're going to kill it. It's really not that big a deal.
But that's the next step. At some point, you don't want to just kill it anymore, right? I don't care about my kill at all. I want to have fun in the raid boss, right? And I only get that certain kick out of raid bosses anymore if I try hard them. So personally, I'm at the point of playing this game where I just don't want to do low DPS comps in a way, right? Does that make me toxic? Does that make me toxic that I want to play high DPS comps? But like I've been doing Vilgardine I don't know how many 100 times, right? So you just get to the point where you just want to try hard it. You want to see how far.
And that's why I say that this only applies to this doesn't apply to the 1%. You're one of the elitist, Roca. You're one of the toxic people. I
hate casuals so much.
There's a clip right there, dude.
Clip that.
There's a clip right there.
Rima, right?
Yeah, let's put that one on Reddit. Like we can show we can share that one with the server.
Well, like, and in my case, I'm not even saying that I want to play Weaver because it's the best, but I'm looking at the charts right now. I'm seeing probably like 4 or 5 different specs that I would enjoy playing more than Stand Share Condition Soul Beast right now. Just because they do more damage and they're still super consistent.
Okay. But what playstyle do you prefer, though?
That doesn't matter to me. The playstyle doesn't matter. I'll learn the class and I'll adjust to it.
It's pretty cool, though. I mean, if you have 5 classes on that build, on that table, that you would be genuinely interested in playing, isn't that a good thing? I mean, that actually.
No, it is a good thing. I'm just saying. My thing earlier was just that there's a group of classes around 33K, which is not hugely different from 35. So my question was, do you think they should be bumped up just a little bit in order to have even more choices available to those people that want to, I guess, maximize their output or whatever?
I think Weaver should not necessarily be notched down a bit, because he does have some traits that give him substantial DPS increases, like Tempest Defense makes him a lot stronger in Fractals and on some raid bosses too. On one raid boss right now.
The problem with the Golem is, like, you say there are a lot of builds around 33k, but where do those builds really apply to? Because in the end, you would have to have a smaller hitbox, not fighting back boss, and that's only like Wilson and Cairn maybe. But the Weaver Ventric is like done with 6 spoons, I think. And in a real raid, you will have more than 6 spoons, so Weaver will end up doing a bit more damage.
It's actually true. We were saying earlier, I think, that like Necro is the only class that benefits from an actual raid scenario, right? But actually Weaver does as well. You have a lot of buffs that you don't get on the Golem. Like you have I was about to say Grace of the Lands. You have Glyph of Empowerment. You have extra boons that buff the arcane traits. You have Tempest Defense on Fractal bosses. So he does actually end up being higher in actual raids. In many cases.
Only if it's done right, though. Like Weaver is also the class that's also most susceptible to being punished by the raid as well, though, right?
That's true. There's a reason why Weavers tend to rage quit if their meteor showers get interrupted, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like someone picked up my conjure, time to start
oh
GG,
god,
right?
yes.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh yeah, there we go. That's a common thing, guys. It's a common thing amongst elitist players, right? But I don't know. I think it's not. I don't think it's as bad as people think. And okay, all right, okay, let's do this. Okay, I wanna bring in. Let's get the SC opinion. Yui and Nico. Okay, guys, what would your advice be for new players picking a class and building a composition for just getting into raid? They just want to down their bosses for the first time. How would you recommend people pick a class? Like, what classes would you recommend people pick in order to get that kill down? Okay, on the first try.
Even though it can't start if it's Chronomancer. Everyone needs a Chronomancer.
Oh, everyone needs to play Power Chrono. Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
Are you talking about like 10 people here? 10 new players?
Well, no. I think kind of. I would stay away from like the core classes. I would say that like everyone's always going to play like the core support classes, right? Everyone like the Chronos, stuff like. Warrior for banners, you druid, you're always going to have that. Like I would say like about DPS classes, like in particular DPS, because this is where the controversy is, really, isn't it? Right at the end of the day, people are always like, "Oh, my class does more DPS than yours." What would be your advice there with regards to picking a DPS class? Does it matter as much as people think? That's what I would say.
I think if you're like new player, then for Condi, there's still Subist, and for Power, still Dragon Hunter are the like the easiest DPS classes to play, to be honest. And
good like. Channel feed.
Yeah, but on Thief you have always like pucks might kick you. So on Dragon Hunter you're safer.
Yeah.
And you also have like F3 on Dragon Hunter, and you have some defensive stuff if you think that something will kill you. So
yeah, and I think now that my friends is a really important thing to know here, because if we actually look at the benchmark table, those are not the top ones, guys. Okay, those are not the top damage ones. All right. At the end of the day, it is more about being able to survive and have something that's easier to learn and easier to pull off effectively as good on every boss, right? So I think that's. I really wish that the community was able to kind of get in on this a little bit more, because I feel like what's sad to me is that people feel restricted, and this kind of comes into a lot of the reactions to the in particular to the Guild Wars 2 Twitter account retweeting the SC benchmark thread. People feel unnecessarily restricted, I think, right? I think people see this post and they seem to think that for some odd reason that they're only allowed to play Weaver now, or that they're only allowed to play whatever build happens to be good at the time. Right, and that I think that's a really sad thing, really, because at the end of the day, like for most players, you should be playing the class that you find the most fun, right? You should be having as much fun as you can. Like you should enjoy the flavor of the class the most. Or maybe you like, I don't know, maybe you like the animations or something. Maybe you like how cool the class is, or you just like the theme. At the end of the day, that's a kind of a big part of why I like Necro so much. Like Necro is a goddamn badass class. It's awesome. I love it. Which is one of the big reasons why I like it so much. But it also happens to be like insanely broken. I read it, but as well. But I don't know. It feels really sad that poor old SC and QT get tarred. They get tarred and feathered with the brush of elitism, right? It's just feels bad.
I mean,
man.
we still have a bunch of people who occasionally say a good thing, a good word of appreciation. That gives us power. I take a lot of strength from those people.
I don't quite understand. Like, would they rather nobody do benchmarks and we all run around having no clue most of the time? Except for a small handful of people who actually bother to take the time and figure it out?
I mean, let's be honest. In the end of the day, they will still go to websites and look at builds and probably watch what people pick as trade options and sigils. So
I think what people are most afraid of is that they will join pucks and people won't let them play certain classes. I think a lot of people might also just be scared of other people's ignorance, basically. Afraid that the commander will be the kind of person who just looked at this table, saw Weavers top DPS, therefore just looks for Weavers, right?
Yeah.
And also there were a fair amount of people who read this tweet by ArenaNet, and since ArenaNet said these are builds for PvE, a lot of people were complaining that people are going to ask for certain classes for meta event or open world stuff because PvE is not just raids, right?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people who actually complained about not specifying raids.
Which is a lot of people don't click on the link.
Yeah.
If you clicked on the link, it would tell you what it's for.
Yeah. Well, I actually think that there is some room for concession there. To a certain extent, yeah, sure. Like, maybe they should have said raids in the tweet, right? Like, maybe they should have said raids. But I don't know, like, come on, guys! Like, use your brain. Like, use the old reading. Have some kind of ability to interpret what's being said here, right? Like, it's so sad. It really is sad that people seem to take it with no nuance whatsoever, right? Like it's a real shame because there's so much effort that goes into this stuff. If you look at SC website, you look at QT website, stuff like that. Well, maybe not QT anymore, lol. But there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's a lot of love and care that goes into making this stuff, and to see it kind of just, it's kind of like akin to looking at a beautiful painting and then just like, I don't know, like it's just saying, well, this is just a finger painting, dude. It's terrible. It's trash. Like taking a shit on a beautiful work of art. That's what it is, dude. And I don't know. It's a little bit sad.
Bob Ross.
Yeah.
What am I looking at?
Exactly. What even is this? It's just a little. It's just a little depressing the way the community reacts. I don't really see a way to fix this either. I don't know. I'm not. Will it get better over time?
It'll just always be that way.
Yeah, I think we just have to. We just have to be above it. We just have to understand there are people that feel that way, and we have to kind of accept that and not get worked up over it.
But Roca, I'm true.
My advice has been, continues to be, and always will be, is find a static group. Find a static group that suits your needs, and you will enjoy the content far more than just plain old LFG.
You know what? What you're saying should have been like, that should be the standard, right? Like, maybe I'm hotline, but I think raids shouldn't barely be clearable with pucks at all. Pucks, like, you shouldn't even ever think raids should be puggable, in my opinion. I think they should. I remember the first time the raid came out, and like a week after, people were astonished by the fact that there were groups that cleared the raid with a pug, right? And that was that's where people were still like doing this with guild groups, where like very few people actually dared to go on community TeamSpeak to try and pug this.
Yeah, I mean, at the start there was no LFG as well because they literally thought that it would be bad for the community because
LFG destroyed raids.
But then they crowded the open world LFG. It was horrible. Because I wanted to farm a legendary, so they just crowded the LFG of raid.
Remember when Brink instances would constantly be full and nobody would do meta events?
Yeah, because everyone was AFK there. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, those were the days, huh? Those were the days.
Ah, the nostalgia.
Yeah.
So
I mean-
Robix, there are absolutely raid training guilds. There are tons of guilds out there who are willing to train people. So it's not like statics don't exist for people who are beginners. There are places for people like that.
In addition to this, like it's also worth noting that the game Guild Wars 2 in general is better with it's an MMO, right? It's best with friends, in my opinion.
Go
Anyway.
figure. Go figure.
It's the best way to play is with a relatively static group or a group of people that you consistently play with. Is kind of, in my opinion, the most enjoyable way to play the game. I realize there are some solo players, right, and people prefer it that way, but I don't know. That strikes me as a little odd coming, in an MMO situation, right? But yeah, go ahead, you.
Yeah, I just think like if you get kicked for playing certain class, then you should not blame people who make benchmarks. You should just blame the commander, kind of. Because if you play your class good, you can always be fine. If you get kicked for, like, let's say, failing a mechanic, then it doesn't matter which class you would have played anyway.
Yeah.
To be fair, oh no, actually that's a different thing. Never mind.
But it happens so rarely. I mean, I puck every Monday morning, and the commander tolerates usually every build. Doesn't matter how retarded it is.
Yeah.
I played Power
Yes.
Soulbeast the other day on a puck, and I'm pretty sure the commander didn't just accept me because he I don't know, knew who I was or something. But nobody minded. I wasn't even lowest DPS. I was terrible DPS. Don't get me wrong, but I was it was okay. Nobody cared about it.
Yeah.
And then Power Soulbeast. Power Soulbeast didn't even make the list, guys. Power
Wow.
Soulbeast didn't even make the Reddit
Wow.
post, okay? That's how bad Power
Oh
Soulbeast
my
is. They
You
didn't
didn't
get
do the
it for it,
benchmark,
okay?
I'm sorry.
What a terrible build. Oh,
I mean,
Amazing.
it's super. I would love it.
Yeah.
It's great for a different part of content in this game, but
But let's
it's
say
not
it's okay.
very great for raids.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, they barely asked me. I came in on Soulbeast, but they probably just assumed I was Condi or something. But I don't know. Nobody cared. I was not top DPS. I was in the top 4 or 5 DPS, and nobody really minded. I didn't get a warning or something. I didn't get kicked. Didn't get people go angry at me or something. Just okay, it's average normal DPS, I guess, and we're just gonna keep trying.
Yeah, and I think again, I think this kind of problem within the community. I think is maybe a little bit exaggerated, right? It might be a little bit. Well, I don't think it's as bad as people kind of make it out to be, right? I actually don't think that the gaming community in Guild Wars 2 is that toxic at all. I think people are pretty kind of, you know what? We'll give you a try. There are going to be some groups that are like, get the fuck out. If you're not on Weaver, we don't want you. Just get out of here. Just leave. Okay. I don't know. Most groups you can kind of get away with it, right? I mean, there have been times where
get kicked.
Yeah, you can
Even if you do get kicked, just move on. Leave the group. We're so privileged on EU servers to have a thriving LFG.
Yes.
There's multiple groups to choose from at pretty much any given time.
And if you're on NA, you can just buy. You can just buy the raid. So
exactly.
that works out. You can. Well, if you're on NA, the correct procedure is you just go and farm open world for a few hours, and you can just buy the raid.
No, just buy Veil Guardian and then sell the Gozable instance until you made your money back.
No, that's actually smart.
Shit, that's a good
Easy
thing.
going.
That's actually pretty smart. Like Roca is onto something there.
Yeah, but that actually requires you to do the spirit run as well. So
Oh, but it will pay off in the end, though. You'll get you'll end up getting the payoff.
but is the pain worth it?
Oh, it's a good question. Maybe not. It might not be worth it. I have to say, you know. Speaking of pain, I think this is something that happened in PvE that hurt Nico a little bit, and that was what they did to Mirage. Would you like to talk to us a little bit about Mirage, Nico, with Confusion? Would you like to tell us about Confusion?
Well, they destroyed an entire condition in PvE because it was too strong in PvP. And yeah, now we have 25 traits in the game that are useless, pointless. They don't need any for PvE. Now they will change those in all game mods, make Confusion
My sound was gone there.
in the entire game, and then they got rid of the condition. Sick.
Just change everything to Torment, easy fix.
It's
That's what
exactly
they're
because
doing
that's the
at easy.
same in the end.
Well,
Not bots are not attacking anymore, they just don't move anymore.
The bosses never attack. Simple. Easy fix. Job done.
I mean, on a golem it's more now, but on every single boss it's less.
Yeah. I suppose in theory they could add a boss that could attack a lot, right? They could add a.
Yeah, wow, then
I don't know.
still bad.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Feels bad, man. I don't know. They could be this one boss that attacks 10 times a second, and then Confusion just makes him kill himself instantly. That would be kind of funny, right?
You have bosses like that in dungeons. They
Yeah.
attack like every millisecond. They just boom.
That's
I
pretty
mean,
funny.
you had bosses like Cairn that like counted as moving all the time. So
Not anymore.
yeah, not anymore, but it used to be.
Yeah, turning was a movement, but
Yeah, exactly. Technically, you could like do something like that just to make like a certain build viable for something.
Might be a bit forced though. I just
Yeah,
and then you have 21 torment ticks into 42 torment ticks.
Or
Which
they
really open
just
as fuck.
split PvE and PvP on Confusion.
No, they can't.
Or maybe we just accept that Confusion is maybe just a con.
Yeah, they don't want to split the design. They don't want to just split the design of Confusion and
just by design.
too
How would
much.
you even make it so that it would be like good for PvE? It would basically just be bleeding.
Just undo the
Yeah.
change.
You'd have to change the scaling back to how it is, right?
Yeah, or a bit
Yeah.
less. That's okay.
Or a little bit. Yeah, I
Make it a
suppose so.
third of the tick damage.
Yeah, I suppose, and they might play with that. Maybe we'll see that, but I don't think they will because of the way they changed Mirage to kind of swap it all over to Torment. Really, so I think they mean it to stay that way because they wanted to really reshuffle PvP, and that's fine. You know, at the end of the day, that's fine. I think. But I mean, you know, Mirage is still around, so it survived. It's still, you know, it's still pretty good. So that's good for that.
Condi Inji didn't.
Feels bad.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Also
that was deleted anyway. It's replaced by the new, replaced by Hollow anyway. We don't need that class anymore. But yeah, it is a little sad to see some of this stuff kind of get bopped. That Confusion is just never worth using. But I mean, there's plenty of useless skills in PvE, I suppose. So you know, we're just adding a few more to the pile of useless abilities. But kind of on a slight tangent to that. I think the one way that they can definitely start to balance the raids, balance PvE at least in terms of like the raiding scene and stuff like that, is by designing the encounters in a specific way, right? So like you already have some bosses that aren't really that favorable for Ellie. So do you guys think that they should just keep adding bosses that suck for Ellie until people stop complaining about Ellie? That's the real question here. That's the question I would have. They keep adding bosses that keep moving around constantly, keep jiggling, and also just they're immune to meteors. There you go, job done. Community complaints solved, right?
Having get even bigger complaints in him.
Thief can jump next to it. That's too easy. I'm sorry.
Because
It feeds on torment. This is too good for Mirage.
Yeah.
Because right now you only hear the people complaining who are not playing Ellie, but aren't actually more people playing Ellie than not. So
And they can cry very loudly.
Yeah, there's some loud complaints.
if I ever park, I don't park often, but if I park, I always see quite a bit of Ellies. I think all those people would cry even louder then.
Yeah.
It's one of these. Be careful what you wish for a situation. Don't make Ellie trash. Basically,
Didn't one of your Ellie park quit the other day, Roca? Because someone stole the conjure.
did
What
do
was that?
what? I think I did, like your mic broke off for me there.
One of your POC allies left one of the runs. I think it was with fires. Because the conjure got stolen. Or was
Really?
that someone else?
That might have been me.
Wow.
No,
You look-
I don't know.
you-
I don't remember. But I wouldn't be
someone.
surprised, to be honest. There's a lot of Ellies who get really upset about that stuff.
Hmm.
Me actually included. I've noticed this on
What
myself.
about
I
a
actually get really
boss
upset about this.
that increases your lava font cooldown? How about that? Now that's a
Sounds
real
a little
boss.
bit specific.
Yeah.
Are we going back to more auto attacking?
I mean, look,
Freeze
think
lava
about how that would
again?
look, right?
Just a boss immune to fire.
Oh, that was terrible when that was
Oh, yeah,
in the
it was
game.
one.
That'll be good.
I mean, remember that used to be in the game. Remember the fire refugee and
Yeah.
Molten was, right? That was terrible. That just removed.
No,
like,
it's fantastic. It's
you
good.
don't want to. I mean, think about it out of the eyes of the warrior in the group, whose damage was all burning, and he either respec to power for this fight, or just go AFK for this fight.
Mm.
I don't like these things. They're too specific, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's a little
Especially
bit too
because in the
much.
end, some Conti classes would get harder nerfed than Elitism.
Yeah. I remember, but kind of back to to redirect to the point again. I've always felt that a really good way to balance this stuff is using the encounters, right? Like for example, KC is a great example of this. Very extreme example, but an example nonetheless. It's always going to be Ellie pretty much on top, right? Because it's short burn phases, and you have Tempest defense, and it's got a big hitbox, right? So it's the dream for Elementalists, right? But then suppose you had a boss that had a tiny hitbox and moved around all the time, like in that instance, and Ellie is not so good, right? And this is the way you can make the class balance a little bit better, because that kind of disregards the benchmark. If Ellie is great, but the boss can't really move that much, and you need a pretty big hitbox, then suddenly that number doesn't mean as much, right? And if you have more fights like that where you can't just turn it into a goal and like make Weaver happy, and that's the instance where you actually have that when the numbers don't actually end up mattering that much because of the way the mechanics pan out. And I think that's kind of the way stuff gets balanced, right?
Think about a boss like Matthias. It's very punishing for Elise.
Yeah. Wanted to saving too is like prime example, because on Sloth Ellie is really good, but on Matthias it's like not that good because he is moving around and punishing you. You have kind of both fight variations on thing two.
Also like
Same
skills
for
that
M5.
that force you to react quickly, like kind of the Hadoken on Matthias. I mean, that one you at this point know when it happens, but like the general concept of skills that just happen very fast, like a Lupicus kick or something, like it doesn't allow you to actually channel a skill properly on Ellie, because you always have to kind of assume that he might do this kick next, and if you're in a channel, you're not going to be able to dodge it.
Yeah, and that's that's what we see, right? And that, I don't know. I think that's why one of the reasons that I don't know. It's a bit math and avoidy, right? Like people are too into the math and avoid, and you need to apply a little context to all of this stuff before making these judgments, which is I don't know.
That's why people should always not just look at the Reddit post, but they should actually look at the optimal comps that as Snowcross suggests for individual bosses. And there's usually an explanation there why certain bosses are best in slot. So like going further than just looking at these numbers, actually looking at the bosses and at the guides themselves as well.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, guys. I think we've kind of done that. We've done this topic. This is a bit of a dead horse. But do you know what an even deader horse is, guys? That's dungeons, okay?
That's a big lie.
I imagine the guys in the bottom left corner here, Yui and Nico, have been waiting for this moment. But I want to talk about dungeons, guys, okay? Finally, it's time to talk about dungeons on TeaTime. It's never happened before properly, but let's have a little talk about dungeons. Dungeons are in a little bit of a sad state. Abandoned doesn't really do it justice. Kind of deliberately ignored and pretended doesn't exist is more accurate from the treatment they've received from ArenaNet. However, a lot of people are still really enjoy them. I know there are dozens of them, dude. People who like to play dungeons. Okay, they're everywhere. Dozens, literally dozens. Okay, yeah. SC is of course an Ara themed guild. That's exactly what it is. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about dungeons. Do you guys think that dungeons should be re-implemented into the game, or have they been basically rendered obsolete by raids and fractals, right?
I think they should be, because like what I always say is, when someone asks that, is before HOT you could do fractal, let's say 30, 40, and 50, which took about 1 hour, which is already more content every day than if you do fractals now. You take like 45 minutes, and you had dungeons, which a full dungeon tour was like 2 hours. So in the end, you had more repeatable content than you have now, because raids is the only weekly reward. So you did more before HOT, which was the first expect, than you do now after Path of Fire, which is the second.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree that it would be great to have something to do other than fractals after you're done your daily fractals. Where do you pull the resources from to bring dungeons back? What team do you cut? You can't say guilds because it doesn't exist.
the second raid team.
No, not my raids.
No.
I mean,
The
it took
Killers
8
World
months.
team.
You're gonna regret that.
No,
took
Nico,
8
fuck
months.
you, motherfucker. There's no 1+1 team. PvP. Delete PvP, add dungeons instead, dude. Easy. Nice.
You hire new people. I mean, if it was just that easy, wouldn't they hire new people? I assume that they can't just hire a bunch of whole new people that they have to vet and get the skills for.
That would be a little bit too easy an answer. Like, yeah, it's actually a good question. I think that I think they could reduce the workload by taking stuff that they have scrapped in the past or something. I'm pretty sure you have a bunch of maps that like didn't make it into the game, or might have. Obviously, I don't know anything, but I assume the way. I mean, that at some point they might have some maps just lying around that they could recycle into dungeons. And I don't think it would take a terrible amount of work, because I don't think that dungeons require a terrible amount of work. I mean, they're supposed to be rather easy. You don't have bosses with crazy animations or something. That's actually people hate about stuff nowadays. It's like having bosses like at the end of Twilight Oasis, right? People, I think, in dungeons, part of the beauty about dungeons is that the bosses are somewhat simple in their effects, and that you're rather looking at like
The pathing, like the movement, right?
I mean, think about like something like Lupicus. You're looking for tells in the
Oh, yeah.
animation
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
character rather than him starting a huge fire blast. You're just looking at him lifting his right arm or something, you know. And I think that you don't need crazy amount. You don't need the same work that they put into fractals. I think they could take stuff that they have already, just kind of reassemble it. And like put some simple mechanics in there, and it doesn't have to be so crazy necessarily.
I think creating dungeons
If you
actually
can just
a lot of
re-enable
effort.
TA forward up, for example.
Yeah, that would already be more.
I didn't do this path since 4 years. Would be kind of hypey, even though it'd be broken as fuck, probably.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even remember most of the dungeon paths. I haven't done them in so long.
Yeah, since Heart of Thorns, it's like 30 paths. That's it. And
I
it's
did wait.
But I mean,
2.5 years.
either way, they would have to put time into it. They would have to put workforce into it, right? What we're basically talking about is it worth it? Would it be worth it for them to draw people from other teams to invest money and time into this? Would it
Because
be worth it in the
wherever you
end?
draw those resources from, then that project gets delayed. So if you take it from the new expansion, then the new expansion gets pushed out. If you take it from Living World, Living Story, whatever you want to call it, then you get less episodes of those. If you take it from the Fractal team, where they share that load, then you get even less fractals than we got in 2017. So the resources have to come from somewhere, and that means other things are getting delayed.
Problems with fractals though is like, for example, they added Twilight Oasis, but it's not more content. It's a fractal which doesn't give you anything because you still only do the 3 recommended dailies.
And that's actually a big part about dungeons, in my opinion, that they're not tied to this daily system that fractals have, right? It's not worth to do any other fractals other than the daily ones, but it was always worth to do all the dungeons, right? Except the ones that were like ridiculously long. But
so do you think, okay, so right now the big thing is, what is it, 8 dungeons and you get an extra reward?
yeah.
So what if you did 8 fractals and you got an extra reward?
I don't even like the 8 dungeons thing. I think it was the best when you could literally just do all of them.
I think
you
like
just got a reward for each.
you get a reward for each dungeon. It's not the rewards are not the problem, so dungeons are not done. Problem is that they are just so fast now. Like bosses don't fight back because of the break bar and all the damage creep you got. So if you get new dungeons which have, let's say, tankier bosses, that would be already fine. The rewards are not really worse than they were before HOT, especially
They're
because
better now, even.
they're kind of better now.
They just lost all the flavor with Breakbar.
Breakbars did a lot of damage. That's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah,
keep
50%.
hearing all the time.
The thing is, like, even if you remove the break bar, it won't change anything because of Weave and stuff. You have so much more damage. Like break bars.
But another thing that breakbar does that people usually don't think about is breakbars make bosses immune to certain CCs. Like even if they're broken or something, you can't knock them. You can't chill them or something. And those used to be, like, in my opinion, or that's what I heard. Like when I talked to people who were more into dungeons than me, that like that took away a lot of the flavor. You couldn't do certain tricks anymore on bosses.
Yeah, and I know what you mean, but it's mainly for low manning though. But doesn't really matter anymore.
So this is actually probably a lot of work, but what if they remove break bars and then redesign, overhaul, and buff the current bosses?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be amazing, I guess. I actually think that break bars are not 100% bad, but they're bad in the way that they are right now. I think if they could somewhat redesign break bars in a way. And I've been thinking about this for a while. How would you fix this? Because I also don't like the system they had before, right? The defiance stacks, if you guys remember those times.
Yeah.
Where you would literally just CC that would take away one of the 5 defiance stacks that the boss has, and it would completely disregard what kind of CC you have. So you'd have a thief doing a 1/4 of a second daze, and it would be the same worth as like a 2-second stun headbutt or something, you know? I don't like that necessarily as well, but that did give a lot of opportunity for play that people are missing now. Like people actually having to coordinate their CC in a way rather than just spamming it as it would be right now. So I like that break bars add this potency of CC aspect to CC, but they at the same time took away the much of the coordination that's behind CCing.
Yeah.
What I actually personally, what I think would be kind of cool, and I'm not sure if this is the solution, actually, but like if you would separate the break bar into certain parts, so you'd have like 1/4 of a break bar, which is like breakable by like a 1/2 second daze or something. But then you have a bigger part of the break bar, which you need a bigger CC for. So you could still kind of like coordinate, right? You could say this class does the first bar.
So you have to do it
this class does the
sequentially.
second
So
one.
you don't want to waste your big CC on the small section, then. Right?
Exactly right. You'd
Yeah.
go like you want exactly the right amount, right? And you could take this. I don't like. I mean, obviously, this would have to be balanced differently. Maybe you'd have to say it has to have like I don't know 5 or 7 different bars, right? But you'd get this aspect back of having to think about who does which CC at what point, and not just everybody randomly spamming their CC.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a cool change, maybe. But that might have a problem that I didn't think about, right? It's just an idea.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the biggest point for bringing dungeon backs for me is still like people cry about content every time, which this is the replayable content which makes you busy every day. Because if you do fractals and let's say you do it in 45 minutes, then you have no reason to keep playing the game if you want to play instant content and you have all the raid reward already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, except for actually,
And that's a huge problem for me personally.
Yeah, to grab the rewards, right? And at the end of the day, rewards are a core part of gaming, particularly MMOs, right? So there is that, and at the end of the day, dungeons can be pretty meaty. I mean, obviously, if you get really good at them, you can do them very, very quickly. But I mean, most people don't do that, right?
But dungeons have so many important aspects to them. Dungeons are the first thing that new players see when they come into the game, right? It's the first thing that people play towards is that level 30 dungeon.
Yeah.
It's the content that you don't have to be hardcore for, right? It's not like you don't need special gear for this. You don't need to have AR. You don't need to have a crazy group or something. It's rather easy content, right? That you can actually jump into. So it is actually something that both the casual players and the elitist players enjoy, right? The casual player can go in there and can full clear the instance and still have fun with his friends, right? While the elitist can go in there and like make it an art to do it below 2 minutes, And
I mean, you can min-max way more on dungeons than you can on raids.
Yeah.
Raids are mainly only about a rotation. Dungeons have more than a rotation to them.
But it's obviously very off-putting to new players to go into a dungeon LFG and either find nothing at all or like the 2 tryhard dungeon players that are still in this game that don't want to wait for them, right? And this has been a complaint as well, right? They just skip ahead and they do the bosses themselves because they don't want to wait. And you're basically just leeching, which is not fun to a new player, obviously. Because I don't think that the new player dungeon experience in Guild Wars 2 is so great right now, which might be off-putting.
So the thing is, like, the way that sounds, it does sound like the only way we can salvage dungeons is kind of with a full rework. Then they would need to like go over everything and fix everything. Because one of the things dungeons are also a little bit famous for is being a little bit buggy sometimes. So like, might have to go back and fix that as well, right?
They added
Honestly-
a lot of things. Sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead. I've been talking.
Honest, and somebody touched on this in chat earlier, but honestly, I think if they're really going to put resources into dungeons, which personally I wouldn't mind, but if they're going to put resources into that, I would rather them just make new dungeons.
Yeah, I would actually agree on that.
New dungeons, new rewards. Benji said like add in decorations as like a pool for some people, whatever it is, but new stuff.
Something that I really like they did with rewards for dungeons that kept dungeons alive for me at a time where dungeons were always dead is that there are some meta runes gated behind dungeons. So like if you want the Nightmare rune, for example, you have to do a dungeon. If you want the Aristocracy rune, you have to do a dungeon for it. And those I felt were cool rewards for it. Like
you can get them RNG via
but I mean, are you as a new player really gonna go ahead and buy 20,000?
That's also AIDS. It's also really annoying. Yeah, so I mean...
so it's kind of like that. They're kind of you are actually.
Yes.
I mean, I understand it. I've done it myself, I admit. But it was never worth it when I did it. I should have just gone and soloed it at that point. But I like that there is this little bit of encouragement to have to do this sort of content if you want to get into the harder content. I actually think that's a very cool idea. Like you get the reward, like a sigil that you then need for raids if you want to move on to the next step of difficulty and content, right? I actually thought that was pretty cool.
That's I mean, in Guild Wars, it's kind of never going to be the case, though, right? I mean, it's always going to be that they don't want to add that kind of gatekeeping, right? They don't want to add gear progression.
I know, yeah. But I thought it was pretty cool that was the case for some builds that you'd have to do dungeons.
Yeah.
So Tiger says they should add ascended armor pieces for dungeon tokens. The problem, and I don't think that's a terrible idea, but I know ArenaNet, and they'll add some kind of armor crafting token that you have to get in addition to it and make it ridiculous and terrible. So while that's a great idea, they'll find a way to like ruin it.
Wow. That makes ArenaNet sound horrible.
Wow.
I mean, people at this point want also new dungeons and not reworks, I think. Because they did the old ones.
New content.
I think they shouldn't rework. I think they should fix. I think they have implemented a lot of new systems that they didn't actually care about for dungeons. Like they put break bars in the game, but they never went into dungeons and looked if break bars make sense on dungeon bosses, right?
Rebalance them, right?
They just threw it in there, and it ended up breaking a lot of stuff and making a lot of stuff bad, but it never got rebalanced. So yeah, like look at like maybe add one or two little mechanics to break bars, maybe remove break bars for some bosses, maybe make some break bars even work in the first place. Hey, Lupicus,
you can break Loopy.
Yeah, but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything other than cancel out the attack that he's currently doing. So it's very, very useless. Just fix a little bit. Just fix the terrible stuff that makes it unenjoyable. To be honest, like this is one of these cases where getting feedback from the dungeon runners might be very helpful as well.
Like community feedback is huge in this because,
exactly
because it is a very community-driven thing these days. It isn't really supported as such by ArenaNet, right?
Now, not community as in just read everything. Forum.
No.
Don't do that, please. But yeah, listening generally to the community, and then go ahead and then put your actual resources into new dungeons. And I think it would be terrific if like every new Living World season map came with a dungeon. I think that would be amazing. Yeah. There was a dungeon at the end of a map.
Yeah, I think dungeons can be a great way to do this, right? Because they do have that story-driven element, right, to them.
Yeah.
They could even reuse like so in Daybreak we went to the city of Foreigner, right, to save time and yada yada. They could have reused the Foreigner instance as a dungeon. Add a bunch of mobs, whatever. Add a couple bosses in.
Yeah,
absolutely true.
It's a good map for it as well. It's actually, and it would have been thematic as well, right?
That's actually a cool idea. Like reuse Living World episodes or something.
Yeah.
Those maps that are established bosses in there that you only see once and probably have forgotten about nowadays. Like think about like Living World Season 2 bosses or something. Like the dragon thing, the centaur guy.
I definitely think that something like a dungeon could actually add a lot, not only for the hardcore player, right, but also for the casual player. The kind of going through this instance as part of the story and exploring this and fighting these bosses in a smaller instance group setting. I think that could be really, really great for people to kind of have that first taste of instance contest, right? You know what I mean?
Call me a role player, but I think it breaks immersion to go into a fractal. I think it's way cooler to
Into a fractal?
go to the end of a map and then find, I don't know,
dungeon.
like this tomb there and go into it and it's a dungeon. I think that's way cooler than going into a lobby that's completely ripped out of the entire world, right?
Yeah.
So then the question is, do you have to complete the story or otherwise in order to unlock it for LFG?
Yeah, story mode, which will be the living story.
Oh,
Yeah.
you mean like do you have to have the episode?
Yeah.
Well, because you'll just go to LFG
Oh,
and say, I want Foreigner Dungeon.
Wait, what?
Do you have to finish the story if it was tied to story instances? Would you have to
you were saying earlier that dungeons are better than fractals for you because you had to like be in the world, and so fractals sort of take you out of that environment, but really you can just LFG dungeons. And
yeah, I'm not saying that it necessarily makes dungeons better for me or something. I'm just saying that is an aspect that I would think about. That is an aspect that makes dungeons appealing to me.
So what I'm saying is you can't just LFG it right away. You'd need to complete the story or something before
go ahead and LFG. Just because there's going to be people out there that guild that might be looking for an LFG team to do it for the first time as well, right? I'd put it on LFG.
But I'm not saying it wouldn't. I'm not saying it wouldn't be an LFG. Just that you would have to unlock it by completing story or something.
Oh
yeah, I think
you could do that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
I think that would be fine. Yeah. Just like they used to do in the old dungeons, like have just what Nico said, do a story mode, and after you've done the story mode, you can now go into the explorable modes, right?
Yeah, I don't see why, but one thing that is kind of interesting. Do you guys think that it's okay that if they were to re-implement dungeons, would we want to make them into kind of what fractals are becoming, like a kind of a streamline? So like you would go from dungeons into fractals into raids as like the kind of the journey, the road of PvE, if you will, right? Or do you think they should actually be a much more separate thing? So it's like this is dungeons, this is fractals, this is raids. Like, should they be very different game modes, or should they all kind of link together to a certain extent?
I think they could be complementary in a way. It could be like once a week a guild does raids because they get the rewards or something. Then once a day you do fractal dailies, and all the other time you can just basically do dungeons. So you have something to do at all times, pretty much. You don't have to AFK and aerodrome in between raids, basically.
Yeah, because if you go down that road, you end up with infinite content. Imagine never being able to stop playing Guild Wars 2, Roca. Imagine if you had to literally dedicate.
Oh god!
Oh,
finally,
yeah.
I could. All this time I've been wasting on my life, I could finally be a dungeon runner instead. No, but I mean that's the case, right? That's the case. You do fractals, you go AFK, and you go raid.
Yeah,
in the evening.
You
have nothing to do in between, right? What do you do? I had a time where I did griffin races, but those days are over at this point, right? That shit's boring and not rewarding at all. So I'd be very happy if I could have a dungeon tour in between and actually do something.
Yeah, there needs to be something extra there.
I mean, I still do them, but...
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean, right? Not actively. Not a lot of people do them. It's not very encouraging to do them.
But I mean, kind of to push that point a little bit. Do you guys think that dungeons should be kind of teaching you things about the other game modes, though? Do you think there should be some element where you because right now dungeons are very different. I would say like fractals and raids, like you could argue there's a little bit of similarity there with the way the fights tend to go down. But I'd say dungeons are very different. Right? Dungeons are not. It's the way the bosses are is very as we talked about. Like the bosses are very much different, very much so different than the way they are in in raids especially, right? Do you think there should be some kind of bridge between those game modes, or should it be a little bit different? I mean, particularly interested in the the kind of the dungeon purists and SC, right? Like, do you think that the dungeon should stand alone, or should there be a little bit of a link there? Because I think it does actually, like, the lack of consistency does actually kind of throw people off. It does kind of bamboozle people a little bit. Traveling between these two game modes, and I mean, I don't know. I think it's okay to have like a little bit of flair, a little bit, have that unique feel of dungeons. But just kind of on a pragmatic level, do you think it's good to have a little bit of consistency, or kind of a ramp, if you will, like a ramp of difficulty into the other game modes?
I think that's one of the parts which make dungeons interesting, though, that you unlock, for example, a mechanic that you can unlock a waypoint as fast as possible, and then your team ports after you, which makes T really good because you're the fastest class. That's not in raids and not in fractals, because you don't have like this waypoint mechanic. You get what I mean? And if you make consistency, then some classes which are good in dungeons right now won't be good again because they do less damage or something than Weaver. But in dungeons, it's not a lot about the damage, so Ellie is not entirely the case.
Well, I think no, I'm talking more from a less from a like kind of, I suppose, like an elitist or like min-max, or kind of with strategy perspective, more on like the mechanics of it, like the fights. I realize that for you guys in particular, like that sort of stuff is part of the mechanics, but for the casual player, like the normal player, like people won't typically do these, like all the dank skips and stuff, right? So like should they? What I'm basically saying is, like, should they make the bosses more like raid bosses, more like fractal,
sort
like
of
the CMs, right? Like,
so
that's kind of like the question I would have for you guys.
So when it came to Istan, there are some mechanics that you see there from some of the larger bosses and events, but because there's 100 of you or whatever in the map, none of that matters because everything gets annihilated. But if you see that on a smaller scale in a dungeon, then those become, I think, more worthwhile and sort of a stepping stone into greater mechanics.
I don't like these kind of bosses. Like, especially, I think you're probably talking about like the Istan boss, the dervish one. Amana, yeah. That's also in the fractal. That's like a very effect heavy one. And I think that, like, one of the things I actually enjoy about dungeons is that they aren't caught up in this system the way that they do bosses yet, They don't do these crazy AoE bosses all the time that have thousands of phases, and now they are there, and now they pour there, and now everything's red, and you have to dodge everything. Really, this very simplistic, you actually have to look very carefully and dodge his very simple punch in the face attack that will otherwise kill you or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think those huge mechanics, they have a place, but I don't think their place is in dungeons.
Like, you do want them separate then from that teaching experience to a raid scenario.
You can still put some aspects in there that teach you, right? You could put break bars in there, and people would learn how to deal with break bars. You could put obviously some aspects that will be picked up in raids as well, right? Obviously, also maybe DPS is a mechanic in a way, right? I think you will definitely learn something for raids if you do this regularly, but still make it its own thing. Like dungeons, I think the beauty of dungeons is actually that they emphasize on something different other than just rotations.
Yep, I agree on that.
If you turn it into these just boss-focused things like 100 CM, right, or like 99 CM did with fractals, that would take away a lot of the flavor that dungeons have, in my opinion.
Okay. So what Teapot said, like, if you that it's basically from dungeons to fractals to raids. I mean, it kind of used to be like that before they reworked the fractals. You kind of got a lot of the mechanics which were in the old fractals, like Fractal 50, in dungeons. It's just not the case anymore since they reworked all the fractals, and there's way more clusterfuck and way more raid mechanics now in fractals.
So do you think they should put some of that stuff back in the other game modes? And so should they actually start putting some of these mechanics into raids? So should there be more should there be more of the puzzle element, right? Because one of the kind of like the interesting things about dungeons is that they have these kind of little puzzles in them as well, right? There's like the little mini games you have to do to get through them, and all the all the various things you can skip and like teleport around and go crazy. Like, should they implement that sort of stuff into raids as well, so that dungeon knowledge is applicable to the other game modes? Because
they on the Spirit Run, it used
Yeah.
when they fixed the Spirit Run.
Yeah. But they used to be.
I
That
really
wasn't-
dislike that they fixed it.
It wasn't intentional, though, was it? I mean, that wasn't supposed to be there.
I mean, at a certain extent, right? There's some pre-events that I absolutely despise, right? The cap event before Gorzeval, that's please take the, I wouldn't mind if that was bugged and you didn't ever have to do it again, right? But like the small stuff, like you find the buttons, that actually made the tournament very interesting back in the day, right? It's like, how do people deal with the pre-events to do them fast and save time, not just the boss fights?
I think they tried to implement those puzzle elements, but sometimes they just go the wrong way. Like right after VG, you have a time-gated based cap event, which is no fun. Like you won't
you
vibe
can't
on it,
speed
but it
up,
will
right?
always take
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah. There's no place
Even
to
though-
optimize it.
Even though the Spirit Run wasn't intended, that's how you cheese some stuff in dungeons as well. Like use a blink to avoid traps, for example. I'm not sure if that's intended too, but that way you're just faster. That's why I liked it on the Spirit Run, that you skip those circles, and even if it's not intended, then it still made it faster, made it somewhat fun to do.
You're adding something for the more experienced players to do to speed up an event, right? And I think that is always desirable, like to add a certain element that will give you a reason to improve. But I mean, ultimately, raids are always boss heavy, right? And I think that should be the case.
Yeah.
Like raids should be the boss focused sort of content, and then you can have dungeons for like more the skip heavy part, short fights, more fast paced, less boss focused, less rotation focused.
So I think that's kind of the core of the issue. Should we actually, should Arena, or the game in general, should we be pushing these as more as 3 separate game modes? Then should dungeons remain as a very different thing that offers something else, right? And should fractals again be something different? Because right now fractals are kind of like the ramp into raids right now. Certainly the way they're going with 100 CM, 99 CM, stuff like that, right?
Fractals are that take of dungeons, basically, right? I mean, you have the low level fractals and the high level fractals that what you're explaining, basically, this way from like new to the game to getting into raids, right? I think that's the attention behind fractals.
Yeah, I think that's why they changed it. To be honest, that's how they made fractals. Is that you can evolve fast in fractals. You can get AR faster, and you just can do higher fractals earlier. I think what scares many people in dungeons is that what Nico said, the reward is better now actually, but you have to do different paths to get it, and you get more tokens. But tokens is not a raw gold reward for people. People will just look, oh, the gold is less, so the reward is worse. But the tokens actually are worth money as well, and the rewards would be higher than people would do dungeons, even if they're different from the other game mode. Because sometimes people just park raids because they're bored, even though they have the rewards already, and they don't really enjoy it, but they have nothing else.
Yeah. So, okay, what do you think is necessary to bring dungeons back? Like, how can we get people playing dungeons again? What's the key? Lay it down. Hit me with it.
Okay, for me, it's 3 things. First of all, more raw gold, maybe lower the coins currency again, and that would already implement the second thing, which is ArenaNet putting some interest and focus into dungeons again, which they declared that they're not interested in them anymore, so people won't do it because it's not in ArenaNet. Like ArenaNet won't do anything about them.
Perceived as dead content, right? Yeah.
Exactly. If ArenaNet would just say they are working a bit on dungeons again, maybe making a few new ones, even if they just say that they will make a few new ones, the old ones will be played again because they literally stayed interested in the game mode.
Yeah, I remember when they changed to these 8 dungeons into something system. That was like the 1 month that the guild I was in at the time started playing dungeons again very rapidly, to the point where we back then thought about adding them back to trials, and I was about to have to leave the guild.
Yeah, just because they put some effort into it. And that's the same.
Exactly.
Like, if you look, for example, HOT launched, and they said that they're not interested in dungeons anymore. And with the day HOT launched, the dungeon LFG died, and when you joined it, they had no idea what they were doing. That's with the day of the expansion, it died.
I mean, they also completely nerfed the rewards to the point where it was terrible.
Yeah, they gutted them.
I mean, they didn't just say we're not putting any effort into them anymore. They also said they will be useless to do at this point. And then later they came back around and they added some of the rewards back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to ArenaNet stating some interest into them, to be honest.
Yeah. And
I agree.
the trouble with the
That would
rewards
definitely
thing is, like, you know, they changed the rewards back until to the point where they were quite profitable again, and they are now, right? But the thing is, the damage was done at the end of the day, and that kind of, you know, was pretty unfortunate. So yeah, I think, I can definitely see that happening. But do I see it happening though? I see the plan, but I'm not sure if that will actually happen. I think it will be great though, because right now they have all this, you know, this potential content that is just sitting there doing nothing. Like there is that, you know, in their program, right? In the Guild Wars 2 file, there's all this code that's basically worthless to them. It's just doing nothing. It's sitting there being worthless, which is kind of a sad thing, right? It's kind of what happened to all the living story stuff that got removed from the game. But yeah, it would be great to see it come back, right? Because, you know, everyone always wants more content, right? And especially in a form that could be as thematic as dungeons. Because, as Roca said earlier, you know, you don't really get like a integrated story from Fractal, and I think you do get a bit of a story with a raid to a certain extent, but not to the extent of a dungeon, I would say, because of the way the dungeon's designed, like the way the environment is designed in a dungeon is a little bit extra, you know.
I think that Fractal storytelling isn't terrible, right?
No, I think
Fractals give a
100
very
CM is really
unique
good.
opportunity. Yeah, the one that they did there, but also just the general concept. They can take events in the timeline out of context and put you in it, right? That you can play this Urban Battleground Fractal and see this Char invasion. That you can play the Thoma Nova thing, right? But still, like, it's a different, like, you could so much, like, I also care about the stuff that's currently going on, right? Like, not just this very removed story, but also just, like, what's going on right now, maybe in Istan or something. You can do so much storytelling that you can't achieve in Fractals.
No. Well, I think a big thing is chat has been kind of suggesting this. I think a really big way to bring dungeons back, or they could even do this by kind of reworking the reward system a little bit, but why not add some unique, you know what would really trigger the world versus world players? They should add a permanent Ascalonian mage tonic as a reward for as a reward for AC tokens. Damn, that would be so troll. If they, I'm kidding. Everyone who is into world versus world, I'm kidding, by the way. But yeah, adding some new rewards, right? I mean, I realize it's a lot of dungeons, so it would be difficult to add unique rewards to all of them. But that would obviously be the dream, right? There could be something like, you know, in 100 CM, you have the infusion, right? Inks loves infusions. Let's put a dungeon infusion in, you know? And you could have a title like Dungeon God or something, right? You can kind of mix that in there as well, right? And yeah, I think unique dungeon rewards could be something that could bring that back. But the trouble is, I'm not sure if they would invest the resources into doing that. Which is, you know, this is where you actually, you know, we exit our wonderful dream world where everything is possible, and we enter the unfortunate reality of the situation that at the end of the day, ArenaNet is a company that has finite resources, right?
That's the point. I mean, obviously, it would be great if they put a crazy cool weapon set into every dungeon, right? And like the old ones, that was great rewards. I remember when I actually got into the game, the first thing that I did was try and learn Ara, because I really wanted the light armor set, which now I think is terribly ugly, right? But back then I really loved it. I really wanted it.
Same.
I wanted it so badly, so that I was one of the people. When I started the game, I was one of the people that bought dungeons as well, because I really wanted the armor set.
I mean, I bought some dungeons as well. Then I couldn't be asked doing them, and it was cheaper than the reward. I just said, fuck it.
Then you found out that you could sell them as well.
No, I sold them before that.
When people got crazy rich.
I was the time where I just couldn't be asked doing them. But like, thing is just that it all comes down to ArenaNet saying that they're still interested in them, in my opinion. Like, it's kind of sad because in dungeons you actually do more than just a rotation on your class. You use your skills not only for yourself but also for your team, and it's
and you use the skills in relation to the environment as well. You abuse the environment and what's going on, and that kind of, you know, it's I imagine it's like, it's, you know, if you watch if you watch the speed runs, right, guys, you can see like all these little clever little tricks that people do to move about as efficiently as possible, and like beat all the challenges as best they can, right? It's kind of an interesting thing.
I really think you don't have to put all that massive effort in there, right? I think people would be happy to just get like a few dungeons, a little bit of fix stuff for old dungeons. You don't have to create crazy bosses with huge effects. You don't have to create new models and shit. Don't have to create a new weapon set like the astral weapons with like crazy particle effects on them. Just very very basic. Like actually just reuse stuff you already had. Make it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if you can skip through a wall somehow or something. That shit's already in dungeons and people like it. It's actually I think it's a very enjoyable for a part of the dungeon community to like go into the area and find what walls you can jump to with lightning hammer and shit like that. I don't think that would break the game mode. Like mistakes are okay in dungeons, in my opinion, and just but something, a little bit, just a little bit of effort,
Of
and just
refinement.
keep it minimized. You don't have to go hard on your resources.
Okay, yeah, I think that's I think that's kind of a good resolution there, and I don't know. How do we bait ArenaNet into expressing interest in dungeons? Well, we know they watch TeaTime and they do everything we say, so there we go. Job done. Guys, next patch, we're getting a dungeon, okay? So get ready.
Had the idea of Dungeon Glider.
Dungeon Glider? Yeah, something like that. Some kind of collection you could gather. Yeah.
Dungeon mount skins?
Yeah, that would...
Ooh! Lupicus mounted.
Oh,
yeah. A bit too much, I think.
I would ride Lupicus.
Oh.
You cannot ride Lupicus.
You're not the boss of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I can ride whatever I want.
To the guy out there who did all these Casimir mount skins and stuff.
Yeah, you can get. Oh, yeah.
You heard, I hope. I hope you're watching right now.
Isn't he like Dalen Dwin or something? Like
we need you.
We need him to do the Lupicus mounted. That would be funny as fuck. Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? It might even happen. I mean, it's not going to happen. As I understand it,
it's basically a tackle in the end. So.
As I understand it, people have told me that ArenaNet don't really have an understanding of how dungeons actually work anymore. Like, they don't really know how the code works. Because everyone, the dungeon team is gone, so no one even knows how it works anymore. It's just like this completely unintelligible artifact that's just sitting there like like an unwanted child. Just like
I'm gonna help you out, Teapot. You want me to help you out with that?
Okay.
So they invented these things called telephones, and you can simply call up the former employees and find out what they did with the code and how it works so that you can proceed. No? Does that not work? You can't call people?
What if it's a massive spaghetti? What if it's a giant spaghetti, dude?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I don't have it with me, but they have a utensil that untangles spaghetti when you go to serve it. So...
I mean, yeah, but I guess that it would put them off, right? Like, Teapot is right in the aspect that, like, it's probably
very difficult to do.
Yeah, like it would require a lot of effort, but it would be, in my opinion, it would be worth, right? I think it would be nice. I think it would be great. I think dungeons would be great in the game. I think it would be worth to just put in that minimal effort, call the people who used to be doing it, and at least school new teams for it. Maybe like try to get a new team going, but like get the expertise of the old team or something, and just like slightly change up some stuff. Fix break bus, and yeah.
But again, like people are saying, even if you can't fix the old ones, just make new ones.
And I'm not saying rework. Like I'm very because people are very fixated on that point. Like don't change old dungeons, right? Fix old dungeons. Don't rework them. Don't add crazy mechanics to Lupicus that nobody will like. Just fix that he maybe gets a break bar or remove the break bar in the first place.
Yeah. Wow. So there you have it, guys. Does anyone have anything else to say about dungeons?
I think they should I mean, I'm not even the biggest dungeon fan, and I think they should add them. And I definitely think that dungeons, fractals, or otherwise needs to be added to their expansion sales because it feels a little bit hollow in comparison to other MMORPGs that launch an expansion. I think it adds a ton of replayability.
Yeah, exactly. Just replayability. So such a big point in the game.
And it's certainly something to have on launch, right? That's something we didn't really touch on actually. Like having stuff like that on launch is huge, because one of the criticisms of Heart of Thorns expansions has always been Heart of Thorns, Guild Wars 2 expansions, like Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, right? Is that they drop this on you, and then you have to wait a bit to actually get the good stuff to a certain extent, right? Like, well, I say the good stuff, right? I mean, it's basically like for the filthy elitists, right? The disgusting elitists, so like the juicy content. You have to wait a little while.
You mean the 0.5% of players in this game?
Yeah,
and
and again, right? This is well, not again, but you know, this is something we have to bear in mind. Like, this is from a different perspective than kind of the majority of the player base. We have to consider our own position as very toxic players, right? With how this kind of goes to a certain extent, right? For a lot of people, like the way the expansions go and the way content is really great, right? It's a lot of a lot of fun stuff for them to do, for everyone to do. I mean, hey, I enjoyed Path of Fire launch as well. Like, it was great. I enjoyed Heart of Thorns launch. It was a lot of fun, but to a certain extent, for those among us who like a challenge, like it was kind of okay, you just have to wait for raids, right? And because you don't have anything at launch, really, you don't have that instance content at launch except for like migraine mode. It's kind of okay, I see.
Yep.
And I think that kind of does put off some people coming in from other MMOs, right? Because they kind of think like, well, what do you do in this game exactly? Because there isn't that because dungeons is such a staple, right? It's a huge staple of MMO games, and not having that is probably kind of spooking people a little bit. So it could be good for just kind of the good for the image of the game, right? That if they had added these dungeons back in.
Well, just think of it from a player's perspective who is coming either new to the game or coming into the game from somewhere else, and they go and they look at World of Warcraft's expansion, or they look at Final Fantasy XIV's expansion, and then they look at Guild Wars 2's expansion. They're going to say, where are the dungeons? Where are the raids? And then as a Guild Wars 2 player, you have to say, well, don't worry. They're going to add raids later. They're going to add fractals later. Don't worry about it. Like, you have to explain that to people because it's not apparent where it's apparent with the other games.
I think they're also kind of...
You can do first.
I was just going to say that I think they're trying to, like, and I think it does make sense in a way that they're trying to spread out their content, right? They bring out the open world maps, and once these are starting to get stale, like, that's the idea, I guess. Once these get stale a little bit, they bring out the raid. Once that gets stale a little bit, they bring out another map or something, just to keep you involved rather than actually wanting to not bring the content that is deserving of an expansion, right?
Yeah. Pacing is definitely a really important thing, especially for the way Guild Wars 2 works, the way the business model works, the way their content delivery system works. So pacing is huge, and I think they do a pretty good job of it. The triple release was a little bit odd, but that's how it goes, right?
There was so much stress.
It was.
I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was.
No. I like to play my story first, then my raid, and then the fractal. I don't want to be forced to raid for 2 days.
I enjoyed to come out of a raid for once and be able to say there's still content I can play for the next few weeks.
I think they should have staggered it by a week, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but I thought it was pretty nice. Like, my opinion is I actually enjoyed it. I didn't end up liking the fractal, but it was cool to come out of that raid, and instead of like now thinking, okay, now I have to wait another month, worst case, I have now another fractal I can play that I haven't looked at.
Yeah. As kind of a final section of the show, I kind of want to talk a little bit, seeing as we have the raiding elitists, the best Wing 5 players in the game here with us. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about Wing 5 and just kind of the design aspects of raids. going into the next raid. Like in Wing 5, like particularly on Doom, we saw a lot of mechanics that were unavoidable, right? There are some things that you really can't do anything about, and we also saw what was kind of interesting, like movement was very relevant on all the bosses. Solus Horror and Doom. Like, do you guys think that's a good thing? Like, is Wing 5 the best raid wing design wise in you guys' opinion so far?
Yes. Wing 1 is good since it was the first wing and has many different mechanics, even if you don't play them anymore in a raid. But Wing 5 is also pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say. Wing 1 was revolutionary right? Wing 1 introduced mechanics that we had never seen before, right? Standing in the green AoE was something you had never seen before in the game. Having a boss that is only susceptible to Condi damage, after we've pretty much just learned that Condi damage exists in Guild Wars 2, that was pretty big. From the new coming out perspective of a raid wing, but I thoroughly enjoyed Wing 5. I think it had a few little flaws. I dislike that there are 2 event bosses in there right after each other. There's like a little bit of a long break after the first boss.
Wrong, in my opinion. Of course, the river is an event, but the statues are just 3 bosses. Little bosses, but that bosses with events.
I don't necessarily enjoy them. I think it's just a very long break between you have Soulless Horror, you have 20 minutes of grinding your teeth and just getting it over with, and then you have Doom. It's how it feels after a while. At first, I thought they were very cool. They were very flavorful, and but in the long term, it's kind of like the pre-event of Doom, right? Nobody enjoys these 2 minutes anymore.
Okay, that was horrible. But
and that's probably the biggest flaw in the raid for me is this.
I mean, graphic-wise, lore-wise, Connected to Guild Wars 1 is probably the coolest raid for me. Like, it looks amazing, but Arsulosaur is kind of fun. Then River is, I don't like it that much. The event bosses were really cool the first time because it was like, wow, 3 small bosses. This is new, but after a while, it's just got a bit boring. And I think the biggest flaw for me in this entire raid wing is that even after doing Doom 10 times, you still have to do the 2-minute pre-event. Why is it unskippable? It's Doom is an amazing boss, but the first 2 minutes are just so annoying.
Yeah, it's. I think what they were going with, you can kind of see what they're trying to do. They were trying to make it so they wanted to have that Doom gets off his throne moment, right? He's just watching you fuck around. You're running around in circles, killing the skeletons. He's just laughing at you. No.
I mean, also they're introducing mechanics, right? They're introducing the go into green mechanic, the enforcer mechanic, the messenger mechanic. They're just introducing a lot of stuff. It's like a pre-event to the boss, but it's part of the boss, and you have to do it every time that you try the boss.
That's the problem. It's like the 3 Guardians on VG. You do them once, they learn you the boss, but you don't do them every single time.
Yeah, they could have done it that way. Yeah, maybe they should have.
I think they probably just didn't notice. I could see them testing this encounter and just not noticing how obnoxious it gets after a while, because
I mean, the event, the 2 minutes unnecessary.
The very first time I did Doom with you guys, despite doing it for a bunch of hours, I actually didn't really mind the pre-event. I actually thought it was when I was learning the mechanics, I thought it was okay. I didn't care. It was only later that when all these mechanics were when I already knew everything that I could get out of the pre-event, only then it became very obnoxious.
Yeah, and that's kind of the flaw in to a certain extent all PvE content. Eventually you're gonna go hang on a minute, what's going on here? This is the 1000th time I've done this stupid ass pre-event, and it's oh, yeah, okay, all right. Well, this isn't much fun, is it?
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. It's just like the Guardians before the Guardian boss, right? It should just be cleared and stay away.
No. But I don't know. Do you guys think that we're going to be seeing a lot more kind of unavoidable stuff, right? And to a certain extent, kind of anti the way the meta is right now, in a certain way, right? For example, the boon ripping and stuff like that. There's a lot of boon corruption on this wing. But in addition to that, there's stuff that kind of forces a certain level of healing, right? Like the tank buster stuff on Soulless Horror, that you continuously take more damage, and there's like a huge amount of aids flying everywhere. They're trying to make it so you're forced to play a little bit more defensively, and on Doom especially, right? They're trying to force you, they're trying to bait you into needing to have a little bit more. It kind of, yes, I know it doesn't really turn out that way. Like, as people get better and better and better, you end up just cheesing it harder and harder and harder. But still, like that's kind of the direction they seem to be going, and like trying to get rid of you, trying to get rid of the way Guild Wars is played, which is just like stacking every boon and then just going ham, right? Like trying to work around that with the way the bosses are designed. Is that something that creates good gameplay, right? For a start, like is that something that's fun to play around and try and deal with that? But additionally, like, do you guys think that's actually going to be a direction that that ArenaNet are going to go in with future Raid Wings?
I think they're definitely trying to push the heal thing. I think they're definitely, like, in many aspects, like by nerfing the offensive druid builds, by buffing healing, as in like healing is now also a buff mechanic and stuff. I think they're just overall buffing heal builds to the point where you definitely want them on a lot of bosses. I'm not sure if they're really. I'm not sure if they're really trying to destroy the old way of playing, as you said it, basically, of like stacking buffs and stuff, because you still do that, right? I mean, that's just always something you want to do, right? Stack mines.
Yeah.
Stack
no. What I'm saying is like, they're trying to take steps to mitigate it to a certain extent. So the boss might remove. Well, Doom removes your boons. Soulless Horror will corrupt you. Like
I think that's just
the
thematic,
pools she
But it only
spawns.
happens in so many other wings. Actually, all but wing 1. I mean, Slublings corrupt, Clara converts,
Yeah.
Saul steals your boons.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I think it's thematic. I think it just made sense to have an underboss like to be Condi based, and then also like to steal your boons or like convert them. Since it's like I don't know, like Soulless Horror feels very much like a view on a necro based kind of character a little bit. You know?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So like
Yeah,
what
she's
makes
a
sense
necro.
for that character thematically to turn your boons into Condis.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that they're trying to always go for this. I think they're definitely putting a focus on making it an actual job to get buffs rather than just a passive effect, right? You're not just doing your rotation and you end up with all the buffs. You actually have to make sure your gameplay ensures you have the buffs. Now, something that I do think they should learn out of the new wing is the visual effect clutter that was brought up in chat earlier.
Yeah.
Soulless Horror is pretty.
It is a clown fiesta. It's a bit of a clown fiesta, I have to say. It is a little bit of a clown fiesta. That's for sure.
But sorry, you were saying? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say he should totally epidemic the raid.
Oh yeah. Also, like the walls in the river not being very visible at first. Those things I think ArenaNet should take away as like criticism and try to not do that again. Like I remember when I first did the Soul River, the hardest part was to get people to see the walls and like to find the right settings so they would all see the walls. I don't know, that was a bit weird. Also, yeah, RNG walls at
it's a bit annoying. Yeah, it is a little bit annoying. Sometimes you can just get screwed on that boss.
I think RNG factors are interesting. I think there is some merit to RNG because, like, if you have an RNG factor on a boss, you can't statically you can't just statically golem DPS it down. You have to take into consideration that shit might happen.
Yeah.
It also makes grinding for records really hard.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. Make it impossible to grind records. Just make records.
If the challenge in making a Demos record is to do it so many times that you get the right dialogue at the end, then
no, the thing is you don't get Signet in the end.
Yeah, Signet, not dialogue.
Oh yeah,
dialogue is just
but you get what I mean. Like you like.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
You fight like you waste 4 minutes just to reset because of RNG.
Yeah. That is pretty annoying. Feels bad, man. Yeah, I think making RNG a bit more fair, or some elements a bit more consistent.
Doom RNG is fair, for example.
Yeah. Wait, what's the Doom RNG?
who gets bombed.
Who gets
Oh,
bombed,
yeah.
who he jumps
yeah.
on. It's a big RNG factor in pucks.
Yeah, that is a bit of a fiesta. That's for sure. Like you can end up getting screwed for sure on Doom, definitely.
Same with Matthias too. That was like probably the Slothasol was probably the first boss that Sabathar was the first boss that implemented RNG factors, right? But
Really, you can stand in the right spot.
But Matthias is where I first really noticed it. Like also that he like his aggro seemed random first, and like he had a lot of these different little factors that would make the boss very demanding and very active, rather than just golem rotation.
And to a certain extent, that promotes good gameplay. It's not conducive to stuff like records, but it promotes good gameplay because it means you have to play reactive, right? You can't have this instant plan of how everything's going to go. And although that you can have a plan of how things are going to go vaguely, but to have a little bit of dynamic gameplay to it is really good, I think.
I think it also induces like thought for more tactics. Like 2 months after release, you might find out a way to figure out how to deal with these. Right? You might have this like cool idea. Like for example, I've been on one of the Wing 5 bosses the other day, and I saw like a tactic that I thought was super cool and that I hadn't seen before. And that's like a couple of weeks after it was released. Right? The first time somebody came up with a genuinely new idea and stuff. So I enjoy this stuff. I think that wouldn't be possible if like you didn't have a certain like certain aspect of RNG mechanic or it's hard to say. It's not really just RNG mechanics, but RNG mechanics of that, in my opinion. Like they give you things to think about to improve your tactics.
Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting, and obviously it goes without saying that I'm very excited to see what's happening with the next raid wing, and hopefully that's coming soon, and I think it will be. But yeah, I think that will just about kind of cover it on that. Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll do one more thing, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about ever. Okay, and that is Necromancer, guys. Okay, wait. What do you mean? What do you mean snore? What are you talking about? Come on.
Nothing. Just fell asleep for a second.
You fell asleep because of Necromancer. You don't. Come on, don't tell me you don't love Necro, dude. Come on.
I like Necro.
I know you love Necro.
They changed the minions.
Okay, the minions. I need to put the
ArenaNet loves Necro. It's her favorite class.
No, you see, I see a lot of. Okay, right. I'm just gonna voice my opinion because maybe I haven't seen. I said this on TeaTime before. Maybe I have, but I'm just gonna say it, guys. People think that I see on various online forums. I see in the game. ArenaNet hates Necro, okay? Necro is terrible. Necro is trash. Necro is the only class that does less than 30k DPS on Golem. What's wrong with these people? At the end of the day, people don't realize class gimmicks, right? It's like saying, well, it's also like saying, like, guys, Mesmer only does 11k DPS when it's playing Domination Inspiration. It's trash. Oh wait, no, it adds something to the team, and that's exactly what Necro does, guys. Okay, it cheeses the fuck out of stuff, and I just kind of want the I want the official SC stance. Is Necromancer a terrible class, or can you just?
It's terrible. Delete it from the game.
Play
Weaver instead, guys. Play Weaver.
Necro is better than other classes.
Only Staff Weaver. Nothing else in this game.
No, Necro is actually like top DPS at Solazora and Sabatha, so still good class.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of sad that Necro is basically reliant on purely epidemic.
Yeah.
But that's how it is, and I mean, it's the same for other classes as well. So.
Yeah.
It's better than Thief. Thief is trash apart from dungeon.
Or Matthias. Matthias is pretty good.
Oh, you can do the boons, dude. You can do the boons with the Ecto. Yeah, with the Ecto. It's hilarious, man. It's so good. The Mega Ecto, the 10-target Ecto.
Condi Thief isn't terrible. I think Condi Thief is
still less than Mirage. It offers CC. That's a good thing about it.
Maybe Mirage can offer more.
I mean, yeah, it is less than
That's
Mirage, right? But it's good.
Again,
it's good.
Rip.
Yeah. So there you have it. Necromancer is not bad, guys. You heard it here from the elitists, okay, guys? Boom.
It's good as long as they build a comp around it.
There you go.
Like do the same for Vivas. You also build it around them.
Boom.
You kind of need 2 Necros to make Necro good.
Or 5.
5. 10.
No, 10.
10 Necros. 10 necros. Oh,
Stop it, Teapot.
for Matthias,
Stop
you
pushing-
need 9 necros and 1 purple necro. Then you can do.
Stop
Matthias
pushing
as well.
this idea on the community.
No, I'm pushing my
Stop
necro
forcing
agenda,
your
dude.
ideas on us.
But 10 necros would mean no Mesmer, and there is no comp without Mesmer. Please.
That's true. That is
Look,
true.
Teapot, there is no best, only best at.
Yeah.
And
Next-
Necros does not say it. Guys never take me serious.
There you go. You heard it here. Necro is good. I think that is a pretty good place to wrap it up. And oh my goodness, what a tea time it has been. What a toxic tea time it has been
Oh
today.
god, I
guys.
hate casuals. Oh god, I
I
hate
really
casuals.
hate them, yes.
Terrible, terrible people.
Wow. I honestly can't believe I cannot believe I'm hearing this.
Obviously not,
You guys are so
Obviously not.
toxic. You guys are so you hate casuals?
As a casual, I'm offended.
Yeah. But
I'm just gonna join a pug right now just to blame everybody who isn't playing Weaver
okay.
right now.
Yeah. I want to do that as well. I'm going to join you. I'm going to join your pug group and we can flame them together. Nice.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, Necro
The new
carries
form
hard,
of
guys.
ERP?
Oh, ERP?
Mm.
Ooh.
Flaming ERP.
But
That's hot.
let us begin to chill a little bit here, and let's thank our wonderful Snow Crows guests, Yui and Nico. Thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate that. You guys got any shout outs? I know that Yui, you started streaming recently, so tell us a little bit about that, where we can find you, and of course, the guild in general.
Well, I started streaming to stream Fractals and Dungeons. I won pug raids.
You
Yeah,
did
so
that
my streams
yesterday,
are
though.
generally speaking not that long.
Exposed.
I streamed what, like 4 days in a row now. It's oh wait, you linked it already.
Yeah.
So never mind. Don't have to link it. But Nico doesn't stream.
Maybe
So-
I start soon. If I
I
I like
want
that you
enough.
still. I like that you still link like it was
Yeah,
we're
I forgot
both-
to remove it. I forgot to remove it.
well at this point.
Oops.
We're
They
both
moved
from
the
West.
guild.
They're both from Snowcross. You can look at our website for builds and stuff. And we do benchmark posts every balance patch. That's where probably you saw it. And yeah, we have a Discord server. I guess that's it.
All right, so be sure to get on that action, guys. Check all that stuff out. Links have been deployed for all of this stuff. And let's see. Let's go up to one of our other very elitist players, Easy Roca. What are you
I
up to
am-
these days?
Well, when I stream, I mostly do PvE stuff. I've actually gotten fairly much into PvP. You might see me play a lot of PvP, and I'm working on a lot of PvP stuff right now. So if you're interested in that, maybe come check me out. But usually you'll find me do PvE. I main Druid. I play a bit of Weaver. But yeah, it's like, come hang out. We do a lot of fun stuff on our channel. It's great.
Nice.
Follow the channel.
Go join the
subscribe.
benchmark police.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We're the true elitists, guys.
Yeah.
This community, we're the ones who go on YouTube, like find all the nitpicky little things that
Oh,
we
yeah.
dislike about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes.
No precasting.
Yeah,
No precasting
exactly,
allowed, right?
Exactly. Mm.
Yeah. Ooh.
We find a precast. That's
Yeah.
content for days. That's beautiful.
Yeah, you'll spend like a whole stream just picking apart. You'll just
Yeah.
roast the whole PvE community. Man.
I
This
should do
is
that.
it.
I should.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, instead of debating people, I should find YouTube videos and do this comment. What are they called? Reaction videos, right? I should do
Yeah.
reaction videos to benchmarks.
Roca, will you please do debate streams? Can you do debate streams? Debate big.
Debate big. What I debate big on?
I don't know. Anything.
Big was here earlier. Big
Druid, he's
suggested-
still here. He's still here. Just you could do I don't know, Druid.
I'm sure we'd find something.
You could 1v1
I'm
him on
absolutely
Druid.
sure.
Just debate.
1v1 while debating.
Yes.
That's intense.
That was
That would be
ooh.
crazy.
Yeah,
That'd be crazy. Oh boy.
And
It's
Here we
actually
go.
fine because on Druid you can as well just go AFK while you're dueling.
Roca, don't start something you can't finish, son. There you go. Bit calls you out, Roca. Okay, I'm just gonna say it.
Uh,
But anyway,
Let's do it. Let's do it.
and in the top right, the casual gamer, soul beast enthusiast, MMO Inks.
I don't even play Soul Beast anymore. It's trash. I just play Druid. Trash. Literal trash. Don't play it. Just play Druid. Easy carry. That's it.
Rock already.
Okay, that's it. You don't want to shill?
Nope, no shilling. There's no content to shill about. Come back to me when there's something to do. We're going to get season episode 2 sometime soon, I hope. It's almost been 3 months. That'd be nice.
Yeah, think that's coming soon.
Kind of bored.
Yeah? Whoa. Feels bad. But anyway, yeah. That is all we have from our wonderful guests. Thank you guys for coming on again, of course. And finally, if you've enjoyed this tea time and you enjoy general Guild Wars 2 goodness, then, well, hey, you could give this stream a follow as well. Like, it's a place where you're going to find the greatest minds in Guild Wars 2. At least 500 IQ, maybe combined between us. Hey, that's still pretty good, right? Yeah, so follow the stream, subscribe to the stream, follow me on Twitter as well. I'll start flaming people on Twitter. I'm just gonna flame Roca like right now. Actually, let's just go do that.
Right,
I'm just gonna
let's
say
go and do some drama. That's con.
Okay, all that good stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the show today. Big shout out to all my guests. I will make the bot link them all again so we can have a look at those. Sorry for not having anything for you, Nico.
It's okay.
I was asleep when you messaged me that you wanted to come, man. I'm sorry, dude. But yeah,
link to YouTube.
Yeah, we could just paste it again, spam it. Yeah, spam. Yeah, do it. If you want to spam your YouTube, do it. Just post everything you want. Post it all.
Not this way.
Okay, so yeah, thank you guys for watching. Follow, subscribe to everyone here. Check out everyone's various websites and channels, and we're gonna go raid Frostball right now. So yeah, there we go. We're gonna go raid Frostball. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys have had a good day. You've been enriched by the stream, and we will see you guys around on the internet, in the game, just everywhere in general. You can't get away from us. We're the elitists. We're the Illuminati. We're gonna find you. Okay, we're gonna find you, and you'll never escape. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.